Hey, reader, this is Entar. We are here with a bit of a different thing going on this time, but very excited about it. Not today. We're recording this, by the way, on a Saturday. It's not this upcoming week, but the next week, February 22nd, which is a Saturday, I'm going to my first narrative event for Bolt Action. It's centered around the invasion of Normandy, so mid 1944. Half of the players will be playing as the Axis, half of them will be playing as the Allies. And I'm here interviewing Mike, who is running the event. He's run several events, probably about half dozen tournaments, I think, so far for Bolt Action. And so I'll let Mike introduce himself, but I'm pumped to be going to kind of a different event, but I think one that's going to be pretty cool. So, Mike, I'll kind of turn the floor over to you. Anything you want to tell us about yourself, the event, or any of your past experience with narrative play?
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Mike. I'm the local tournament organizer here in Maryland. I think I'm the only one running tournaments in Maryland. Haven't quite run a half dozen yet. I've done four. I typically do one in the spring. That's kind of a newcomer, friendlier, kind of bring some new people in to play, and then I do one in the late fall, and that is the kind of more competitive tournament. And Aaron here was the this past year's Maryland State champion. Congratulations on that. So I'm excited to be here with him. He knows his stuff, so pay attention to his videos. And I'm just kind of here promoting my narrative event. I've never ran a narrative event. I've kind of always wanted to. One of the things that I enjoy about the game is the story aspect of it, and I'm always saying kind of the same reason I became a tournament organizer is that I was like, man, I wish someone would run tournaments. I wish someone would run tournaments. I want to do some tournaments, and no one was doing it. So I just took the ball and ran with it. Same kind of thing with this narrative event, something I always wanted to participate in, and no one ever really did one. So I said, I'm gonna give it a try. I actually reached out to Bo Mortensen for those who may follow him. If you don't know him, he's a great. He's from Denmark. He's a great YouTube uh, personality, I guess. He reviews lists and stuff like that, and he had ran something very similar to this for Italy, and gave me some feedback on things that didn't work, things that he wished he would have done. So I've tried to incorporate them too. So this is the first narrative event that I've really done, especially at this scale. I have done some scenario type events. One of the guys in our group, Chris Johnson, does a Stalingrad mission, which is pretty fun. But that's a kind of one-off, couple-hour game and done. This is a long kind of all-day kind of event to see who wins in the end.
Yeah, should be fun. And I'll link to Bo's channel down below in the description when all of this is said and done. My guess is most people who follow my channel probably know Bo, which is
Yep,
good.
I imagine.
But I'm glad you reached out to him because yeah, I'm trying to remember when he ran that. I want to say it was relatively recently. Um, but yeah, it's always nice when you can kind of get a leg up from people who have done it before.
That's yep.
Um, and
Stand
I've
shoulder to
seen
giant.
Chris's Stalingrad board. That thing is it's a labor of love. It's absolutely incredible the amount of detail and the beauty of it, but still how playable it is at the same time.
Yes,
So
and that's kind of I mean sidetracked from the event itself, but I think that's the curse of all wargaming, especially if you're trying to do historical stuff, is finding that balance between realism and playability. Hills are a perfect example. To get a nice hill, your models are going to fall over. But yeah,
yeah.
Chris has done a good job.
Well, hopefully on the screen you can see right now the the event details in case you're interested in going. Also, quick aside, we're this is a charity event, right, Mike? Is what is
Correct.
going on?
So I'm a member of the American Legion. I am currently serving in the army, and I reached out to my local Legion and said, hey, can we get the hall? I want to do this event, and trying to figure out how much it would cost to try. And they're like, well, we'll give the hall for free. Because I had said I was looking to possibly donate to a charity instead of the funds going to prize support and stuff like that. The registration fees all going directly to charity, and the event is the Maryland boys state dinner. So they have like a Maryland Boys State is like a leadership kind of challenge type thing. And at the end of the event, they have a dinner. So the proceeds from this are going to go help fund that dinner.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. So if you are watching this and if you're located near Maryland, which by the way, I should probably explain, especially for our international audience. So if you imagine the East Coast of the United States, Maryland is roughly in the middle of that eastern seaboard along the Atlantic Ocean. But if you do live near Maryland, and I think I'm trying to remember for past tournaments, Mike, you've attracted people from pretty far afield across the East Coast, as I
I
recall.
think Vermont or
At least Connecticut.
yeah,
Um,
Connecticut, one of those New England
yeah,
states. There
like
was somebody, people from Ohio. The farthest south I think is was North Carolina.
yeah.
So I'm trying to pull them where I like I said I'm the only one doing them in Maryland, so I kind of attract as many as I can from the surrounding region.
Yeah, which is great. But yeah, if you're around, I don't know how many spaces there are still left, but if there are some, contact Mike. Um,
Yeah,
I'll try to,
I
I'll link
really
to the
didn't.
events. That way you guys can see it on
Yep,
Facebook and that way you can find out.
I didn't really cap the number. Right now we're sitting at 19. 20 is kind of ideal for the number of tables we're going to have. But I 24 is probably still doable. So there's a good five or so slots if people want to sign up. They're welcome to do it. We may have more tables than we even need because it all depends on how the battles play out and where what terrain they're fighting over.
Yeah. Toward that topic, if you'd like, I pulled up the map that you sent out to us. So I'll go ahead and show that. This is, I think, going to be pretty cool. So there are 10 tables currently set
Right.
up, and so you can see over here, you got two beaches over here. You've got Corentin, which, complete aside, I didn't know where that was. Like I knew, it's France, obviously, right? But like it does help to actually see it on a map. Somehow I thought it was north of where the beach landings were, but it's
Well,
not.
yeah, it kind of is. It's
Yeah.
north.
But
It's west to northwest.
yeah, there we go. But that so somebody to say I found this map extremely helpful just
Good.
for like giving me an idea of where everything is going down. But yeah, and so you can see like the maps do connect to each other, and so I believe in that sense the boards also connect to each other. Is that kind of how that works?
That's how it's going to work. So you'll move like if you're on one table, the only tables that you can move your army to is the adjoining table, unless you are doing an airborne operation. So
Right, right. And in the rules, I think you actually have limitations on what an airborne operation
correct,
army would have to be, right? Where like you can only take like airborne infantry, lighter vehicles, stuff like that.
correct, exactly. So you can always take airborne troops, and they can use combat jump,
Mhm.
the special rule or whatever they call it, the additional rule, optional rules. But you're limited to only using it to a table that you move onto. You can't use a full airborne assault. So, like I said, if you want to drop into Paris right in the middle of the map on your first turn and you have a bunch of tanks and stuff, you can't do it. You're gonna have to move them to Paris, and then you can drop your airborne troops once the rest of your army has move there. But so I have allowed some. If you have gliders in your army, you can take the later vehicles, and then you can make your entire army air mobile. So
That makes sense. Yeah, I've definitely been looking into that. My printer might be working on a glider or two. Just 'cause I don't own any, and I was like, you know what? When else am I going to use these? Worst case
great,
scenario, they'll do great for terrain for future maps. Like I'll use them for something. But I'm like, why not? It's narrative play. It'd be fun.
exactly, and that's really what I wanted to get out of this. I know it's kind of we may have gotten to it later. As one of the things that we had talked about, maybe mentioning was different lists and what people are taking, and that's what I have seen, and I'm glad is that it's not a lot of competitive. I'm going to take the min max. You know, trying to maximize my dice count to try to get the dice pool favor and stuff like that to gain the initiative. No, people are playing what they want to play for fun. No one is ever going to use gliders in a tournament that I foresee. I mean, maybe something rules will change and people will, but as I see it, I don't ever foresee that happening. So it is nice to see that people are leaning into the narrative aspect of the game, and just playing things that would be fun, either a more historical army because they've never really gone historical, or just something like, hey, I always play, heavy armor or something like that, and now I want to do like a mechanized list or something, and they're getting an opportunity to play it. So
Yeah. Sweet. Well, on the topic of list building, talking brass tacks, obviously, for those of you who are joining us, it's pretty straightforward, 1,250 points. I don't think there's any, yeah, here we go. Only armies in the main rule book, so we're not using armies of Germany. Armies of the United States, I think, is out on pre-order at this point or close to, but it hasn't actually dropped yet.
right,
Yeah, so it's just main rule book stuff. Landing craft will be provided, so ideally you don't need to bring too many of those, although I'll be bringing a couple just because why not? It's fun. I never get to use those. Again,
right,
I never use them.
right.
No dice limit, so there's no max 20 order dice or something like that we've been seeing recently, and then you do make the note about air landing rules and combat jump as well.
Right, exactly. And there are several reasons for some of those rules. The no dice cap, with the way these games may be playing, I might have 10 dice and you might have 10 dice, and we're an ally and we're fighting against an Axis power that has 20 dice. So the dice, is going to even out. So no dice cap, because you might have 30 dice in your list, but you're fighting 220 dice armies on against you, and now they're still going to have more dice than you. So
Yeah.
it's going to make for some big epic battles, I think. I guess one of the things as we go along and play, if things seem to be like being bogged down from that, there are ways to speed up those kind of bit. If it's like a 2-on-2 battle and they all have large dice counts, there's ways to speed that up, and I'll take that case by case, and kind of modify the rules as need be. And then the other thing, like I said, with the vehicle landing craft and stuff like that, I put out, if you have your own gliders, if you have your own landing craft, please bring them and feel free to use them. But if you wanted to, I think we had 4 communal gliders for people to use. Landing craft, we have more than enough landing craft. We should, especially with people wanting to go airborne. Not everybody's going to be doing beach landing, so it's going to free up some of those craft. So
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's kind of a cool way to play. I think the closest thing I've ever seen like it, I forget his name, but the guy who runs the channel, Mordian and Glory, did a kind of a 40K variant of this, where you had like, forces of chaos and forces of
right,
order or whatever fighting each other. And so, you had to decide which armies were you going to pull out, which ones were you going to resend into each table. So I thought that was kind of a cool concept.
yes,
It is teamwork, but it's also like, well, but I can't count on my teammates for everything,
right.
like, so it's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I think the fog of war is going to be interesting. I intend to try to lay out the hall kind of the way the map is. So the beaches will be on one end, and then Paris will be in the middle, and then some of the forests. But I can't 100% replicate that. But so there will still be some fog of war when, as the general, the army, or even as a player, you kind of look over and you're like, oh well, that table is empty. But that doesn't mean that an army isn't on the table that's adjacent to it, and then can quickly, readjust and meet you there, and and fight you over that table that you thought was empty.
Yeah.
So
I
I guess
love it.
another thing maybe to mention, it just kind of came to mind, because I keep mentioning Paris, and like people might be saying, well, why are Paris was never, there was no fighting in Paris.
Right.
This is a narrative campaign, and it's historical-esque. But I like to consider Bolt Action. I refer to it as World War II, the movie, the game. So much like The Man in the High Castle, alt history, that type of thing. What if the beach landing stalled and the Germans fortified themselves somewhere and they did have to fight over Paris, or they tried to reroute through the going through Bastogne, and they just plowed right through it, and they didn't get stopped there at all. This is an alt history. We're using a game to play a what if, much like in the real military where they war game things. We're war gaming a historical event to see if we can recreate it or change it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's awesome. Obviously, 1944 is kind of an interesting time because, technology for both sides has changed quite a bit, right?
Correct.
You've got these bigger tanks going on, whereas the Americans pretty much decide on, we're not going to go with big, massive, heavy tanks. We're just going to put really big guns on smaller tanks
Right,
and
right.
hope they make it, right? Is kind of thinking. Do you think that within the context of 1944 that the Axis or the Allies might, one side might have an advantage just in terms of units that are available to them?
You know, this is one of the reasons I didn't want to go with the armies of Germany.
Mhm.
Kind of it was an unknown, but things like Panzer Ace, it's an unknown factor right now. I haven't really seen many bat reps and stuff online.
Yeah.
I haven't seen what I have seen. It hasn't made a big difference, but it could. And since the book was so new and it was kind of an unknown, I didn't want to throw that in there. But with
Yeah.
that being said, I think this is a good time for balance.
Mhm.
When you go early war, you're dealing with, someone can easily tip the favor if they're taking like a armor heavy and just like there's not a lot of AT. This
Yeah.
you're going to have bazookas and Panzer Shreks for the German side and stuff like that. So I think there's a balance between armor and anti-tank. So I don't know that anyone necessarily has an advantage holistically. I'm interested to see how the armies play out and whether or not they all end up being a total balanced army over the entire army, or if you know for some reason the Allies decide, hey, we're going to go all light infantry, and just load up on bazookas and jeeps, and we're going to airborne drop, and we're just going to try to push through. Or if they are like, hey, we think the Germans are going to take armor, so we're going to match them with armor. I'm really curious to see because there's a strategic aspect of it before this event has even started. When people trying to list, I don't know if people have been in communication with each other, like, hey, I really want to do a mechanized list, but I don't have a lot of AT in it. Can you take some extra AT and hopefully we'll work together? And those type of things can happen even before the game even starts.
Yeah. I'm mostly interested in that too, just because like I was kicking around a lot of ideas, and as you know, I've kicked around ideas for both sides, both for Germany and the United States, because my British Army is nowhere close to being done or
Right.
painted or anything. So I'm like, nope, not gonna rush that. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I kind of fell into the same place. On the one hand, I was like, man, like it's so interesting. I've got some different armor choices, artillery choices for everybody, and I found myself gravitating in different ways. So, because Germany starts with the advantage of defense, I found myself gravitating more toward artillery than I
Okay.
did with the Americans because artillery trying to land on a beach is going to be hard,
Correct.
right? Just
Right.
any which way you cut it.
Right.
And so it was interesting, but at the same time, it's like, well, but if I won on a board and then I was defending it, the artillery would be really nice. So,
Right.
like it was interesting kind of thinking through not just the, well, I need to, try to take a beach or I need to be able to take a town, but then you switch. At some point, you might have to do defense and you have to build
Correct.
your list thinking both ways about
Right.
it because it's a 12-hour day. It's not just, you win a match and then you're done,
Right.
sort of thing.
Yep. And that's one of the things. I don't know if I don't know if I updated in this document. I had an FAQ. I can't remember if I updated on that or if I just posted it in the
Mhm.
Facebook discussion. But feel free to bring multiple armies too.
Yeah.
You have a beach landing army, and you push to the beach landing, and you move to another table. You're stuck with that army. However, if you retreat back to your headquarters, which would be one of the beach landings, you can then regenerate with a new army. The only problem there is you're going to have to then push. There's travel time in
Mhm.
as part of the game. So instead of winning and immediately traveling to that next table and taking it's a 15-minute transit time, now it's going to take you your regeneration is going to take you 15 minutes from that table and then 15 minutes. So it's going to be a half hour, and a lot of things can happen in 30 minutes. So
That is
that
true.
that empty town that you wanted to move into may now be occupied by two enemy forces, and you might have to rethink what you want to do. So again, there's a lot of thinking that goes in it, and that's what I wanted to do. I don't want people to think of this as a tournament where it's win
Mhm.
at all costs. I want to do some little critical thinking and take a break. If you're like, man, this is getting to be too much, we have a full kitchen in the Legion Hall bar downstairs. So go have lunch, go have a meal, go get a drink, sit, collect yourself. Do some strategy talking, and and then get back into it. So
Yeah. No, I'm pumped about that. I do confess when I when I got your note on January 21st about how you could bring several armies just to give your team, extra options and stuff. Literally like 4 days before I had finished painting everything, my army was ready. I'm like, yeah, I'm all set. I can just practice. And I saw this and I'm like, oh no. And my wife can attest to this. Like I'm sitting there on the couch pulling up like all the extra random, units that I own. And
Right,
I'm sitting there crunching math and I'm like, yeah, I'm making another army. I didn't want
right,
to use these, but might come in useful. Don't want to
right,
show up without them.
right,
So
exactly, right.
so now
So,
here we are with like an airborne glider list and a Rangers list, right?
right,
Whatever.
exactly. Yep.
But it was fun. I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of fun to be able to look back on it and be like, oh yeah, hey, now depending on what I need, I can at least tell the boss, whoever the general is, like, hey, I've got this. Which tool do you need? And then if things go really bad, just say, well, we're conceding, we're falling back, and then we'll grab the next company and
Right.
run with them. So
Yep. So inside baseball for me, I'll be playing on the German side. Um,
cool.
yeah. So I'm bringing two armies. One is mechanized.
Mhm.
It's kind of my style of play.
Yeah.
However, the way the list has to be created for like a competitive environment, because I am a tournament player, you need a little bit more well-roundedness, and you can have
Yeah.
aspects of mechanized in your army, but in order to kind of have that well-rounded, take all comers kind of list, can't do what I want to do. This mechanized list, it's a lot of half tracks, and just grenadiers and half tracks, and just go, and
Yeah.
some anti tank with Panzerschrecks, no artillery. It's just a mechanized infantry because I want to push and see how through. It might get crushed. I don't know, but it's fun. I think I'm gonna have fun. And then my other list is four tanks and a couple just supporting infantry. So it's because it's all armor. It's another one I've never. It doesn't work in a tournament environment. Typically, I mean, I've heard people can make it work, but we're gonna try it and see how it does. And if, like I said, the difference is it's not gonna be just me. It could be. I could be on a table by myself with four tanks, and I get
Yeah.
surrounded by an enemy and be like, oh no. Or we could have a coordinated attack where it's myself and another friendly player pushing on the same table, and now we have a combined force. Maybe they have heavy infantry and I'm the armor, and we work together.
Yeah. I mean, speaking just from my experience having played bolt action, if I was sitting on a table and my ally was just bringing big, heavy punch units that can walk up, shoot down at the enemy, provide suppression, and not be removed, that's useful.
Right?
Like, sure, yeah, if I was playing it in a tournament, I'd be happy if I got like one win or two because people just try to work around the tanks and then,
Exactly.
fluke rolls happen, and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a useful asset.
Yes.
Because I'm probably not a person bringing, I'm probably bringing maybe two pieces of armor. I'm not going to bring, like three or four.
Right. Exact.
Um,
Same here. Yep. Exactly.
so yeah, I think that could be very useful. Uh, but yeah, do you find when you're playing, you tend to lean more Axis or more allies in terms of, when you're playing, generally speaking?
Well, I've played both. I guess I tend more towards Axis, mostly just because they have cooler looking toys. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've done fairly well in several tournaments I've been in. I can't remember if I've taken actual top prize on in like a first, second, third type basis. I'm typically in the top three. I have won several tournaments where they're category you win like best Axis, best allies, best minor nation. I have won both a best Axis, both ally and a minor nation. For Axis, I go German. I like them. The most success I had with my allies, I did British Paras. Again,
Yeah.
leaning heavily on the Bren carriers being mechanized, moving forward, veteran. Just like I said, that's kind of my style of play. I really like that. The British Paras really lent to my style of play. I did very well with them. I may have actually took a first place with them. I can't remember.
Nice.
And then the most recent army that I've been playing with, transitioning from second into third at a couple tournaments, has been the Finnish.
Mm,
And they translated completely differently from second to third edition. If you track any of the videos out there, they still work in the old way, but their armor is so cheap, and you can go so armor heavy and just overwhelm with those Komsomolets, 16
Hmm.
points. I mean, I wrote a list. I didn't take it to the army or to the event, but I had a list that had 10 Komsomolets and two T28s.
That's wild.
And
That's a
and I
lot of
and I had
shots.
and
Even
I
with the
had
half
plenty of
shots,
points
that's
to
a lot
spare.
of shots.
Yeah, plenty of points to spare.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's the
crazy.
thing. Yeah, it's only two shots from the light machine gun, but if all of them shoot at the same target and have the potential to hit, right, if they don't move, they're hitting on fours, so half of them should hit. So one per tank should hit. You could potentially pin out a unit.
In a single turn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's crazy. So I didn't go there though. I ended up taking it had six Komsomolets in it, but it was and it did well. So I guess Finnish, are they Axis? Are they allies? It depends on, they fought against the Russians, but they also fought against the Germans. So I don't know. They're kind of this their own minor nation, but so I I chase the meta in some aspects when I'm being competitive.
Mhm.
Um, so I've stayed away from Gurkhas back in the day. I didn't do them, but I did like the British Airborne worked well for me, like I said, style of play. But when I'm playing for fun, Germans, I like their toys.
Nope, that makes
Assault
sense.
rifles.
And I think just as far as toys go, I think Germany probably gets the widest range.
Yes,
Uh,
I agree. I
which
agree.
is cool.
Yeah.
And for Finns, I think it's just like they have a lot of novelty stuff, right? So like, you got, reindeer horse-drawn limbers and
Right,
stuff
right,
like that, in addition to, hey, our guys pop up from wherever, we can move into ambush. Like there's just a lot of cool, I don't want to say gimmicks because it's not a gimmick. It's
right.
play style. They actually are thematically different.
Yes.
Which I love.
And
So
that's what kind of drew them to me is that their forced play style lent to a historical bend, and so I kind of like that. I think it's gotten away from that in third edition with the armor because they really didn't use a
yeah.
lot of armor, but they did capture Soviet tanks and use them, so like, there is that, but not in like the force that you put on the tabletop.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm back to kind of your original question. Germans may have a slight lead just because I said like the toys.
Yeah.
They get assault rifles. They have tanks that have bigger guns and stuff like that. But I mean, there's points associated with that. So I mean, this is a war game, tabletop war game, and there's a point system that exists for a reason. It kind of tries to balance things that way. So
Yeah. Well, and with the increased cost of Panzerfaust and
right.
even the cost of assault rifles going up and the cost of submachine guns even going up, like
Yes. Yep.
like
Right.
it's nice to have the options, but then once you start putting the army together, you're like, ooh, okay,
Right.
so a lot less bodies is basically
Correct.
what it's going to come down to, which is good. It's a good trade-off. It's a question of what do you want in the toolbox when you show up at the table.
Exactly. And then that's, that do you take veterans, you
Hmm.
know, for the same points cost of eight veterans, you can take 10 regulars with the, better equipment. So which is better? I don't know. You know, it's a dice game too. Luck
Yeah.
has a lot to play in it.
Well, and we're so new into the edition too. Like,
Correct.
there are some things that percolate to the top as, yeah, this will probably be more useful, but give it 2 years, who knows? Somebody may find something that the stats aren't telling us or that, gameplay doesn't tell us until we're in it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
There will be someone that finds a way to break something. That there always is. But one of the things that endears me to bolt action as opposed to like 40K or some
Mhm.
other games is the balance. I mean,
Yeah.
these are men with machine guns and rifles, and there's some stuff blows up. There's no psychics. There's no super laser weapons. So just in the actual game system itself, there's really not um, an imbalance of power. So
Yeah.
even when a new book comes out, I said yes, Germany has some new toys, but it comes at a cost. Like, yeah, that Panzer Ace is awesome, but now you have to take that tank at veteran,
Mhm.
and it's limited to the tanks that it can be used on, and they're expensive. So if you want to use it, yeah, it's cool, and it will hurt something if when it hits, but it's a chunk of your army. So it's I think that's a great aspect of the game is the balance that just kind of is inherent in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm I mean, I'll kind of hand it over to you, Michael, for any final thoughts you have on it. On the whole, I just want you to know I'm excited.
Oh,
As
good.
soon as I saw it was a narrative event, I'm like, this is so cool. I've never been to one of these, and it'd be kind of fun to go to an all-day event where there isn't the pressure of, oh no, how am I going to place come the end? We're just hoping we can make it all the way to Strasbourg, or if I'm
Exactly.
playing on the German side, hoping we can keep them out of Strasbourg,
Right. And that's, and that's the thing. It's I wanted this to just be a kind of a chilled, laid back thing. That's why we're not, there's no break for lunch. We're not,
Yep.
it's so if you're tired and you can't play anymore, you need a physical or mental break, go get something to eat. Tell the general, hey, I'm sending my men on R&R,
Yeah.
and then that's something at the strategic level that the that side, if someone leaves, has to determine, like, okay, now we're down an army. How are we going to manage this? Do we halt our advance and dig in and at least hold our ground, or do we keep trying to push because we don't necessarily need them right now anyway because we got the enemy on their heels? It's how that comes. So I'm glad that you're excited. That's what I was hoping for. Like I said, I haven't played in an narrative event, and I really haven't ever really seen one like to this scale. Like you said, Morning Glory had done one very similar. I played in some Games Workshop like worldwide campaigns. It's but they're different. This is like I said, it's kind of a one day. Here's like I said, you were pleased to see the map. So like there, yeah, there's a map. Here's where you are. Where do you want to go? And at the end of the day, it's going to be kind of there'll be points scored. That's how it's going to be work. I'm thinking like every 2 hours, just do a count, and depending on how much terrain you have, that's how many points you have. And in the end, whoever has the most points, unless, like I said, if you roll over the German army in Strasbourg and destroy their headquarters, then you'll win. But hopefully that doesn't happen in short order. But we're here to have fun. So even like I said, doors are gonna be opening at 8. I will publish a schedule here in the next couple days
Yeah.
because I believe the kitchen downstairs opens at 8. So we're gonna open our doors at 8, so you can go downstairs, have some breakfast, probably start briefing and stuff around 9:30. Walk through the tables, talk through stuff, and then get the dice rolling. And if some reason the Allies steamroll the Germans in 4 or 5 hours, then we just play. You're
Yeah.
gonna have 20
We got
some people
armies.
there, lots of cool tables. Just play some games.
Yeah.
It's so that it's a no lose situation as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. So um, excuse me. One of the reasons I even got into tournaments was because I was guaranteed to get 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
As we've grown a huge community here in the region, and it's pretty easy to find a game now if you want a game. But back when I started a couple years ago, it was pulling teeth to find a game. And you go to a tournament and you knew you were getting 3 games. And that's kind of how this is. Like, this is as many games as you can either get in or want to get in. So there's no time limits. That's another thing. So it's not like once you get to a table, it's 2 hours and we're going to reset. If you finish, it takes you 3 hours. So I'm hoping people are there and they realize, this is a fun event. Don't slow play, don't make it difficult for the other people, kind of thing. And I don't foresee that happening because, for the most part, bolt action gamers are a different breed.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good about not doing stuff like that because no one wants to be stuck on the same table for 4 hours anyway. But and one of the keys in that too is like if you're sick of playing against a person, you can always retreat
Yep.
and go back to your headquarters and start over. So like there's no pressure to like get stuck in a game or whatever. So yeah, we'll talk through all that stuff on game day, and hopefully if
Yeah.
there's any questions we can answer them then. So that's really all I have to say to sum up. Like I said, if you're interested in joining, we do have some spots. If Aaron links the Facebook link
Yeah.
or however he wants to do it, if you just go on Facebook and look up Operation Valediction, or sorry, not Operation Valediction. That was my last. That was
Yeah, that
my
was the last one. This is
tournament. Liberation of
yeah,
France.
Liberation of France.
Yeah, and there, yeah, you search it, you can find it. We still have some spots. We'd love to have some people. It should be a good day. And I look forward to doing it. I look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking a couple minutes, Mike, to come and talk to us about this. I hope that narrative play like this really catches on, because I think it's different. It's cool. It scratches the, semi-historical itch.
Right.
It scratches the, hey, I get to have a chance to be competitive, play against some people I don't know, but without the pressure.
Yeah, well,
And I
I
think
know we're
that's
wrapping
very good.
up, and I'm going to derail here before because that's how
Go
it
for
always
it.
happens, right? One of our players, he's actually helping with a lot of the terrain. Rob Met T, I think.
Yeah.
He's looking to do a narrative event after this, taking some lessons learned from what I do, but he wants to really make his much more historical. So he's gonna probably have people build lists of actual units that were there,
Mhm.
and he wants to do it's solely going to be Normandy. So it's going to be a beach landing, into the hedgerows, into fields. So it's going to be kind of like a rolling map where instead of my whole country map, it's just going to be a row of tables that are its own map that you kind of fight over.
So cool.
So yeah, the narrative thing may happen. So you may get your be able to scratch that itch a little bit better. So
Gotcha. Well, I do appreciate you being here with us tonight, Mike. Yeah, looking forward to the event. I'll do a recap probably after the event is done. For those of you who are interested, go ahead and again check out the Facebook page, and we will see you next time.